Alrighty.
What's up, world? It's Erman Baradi. It is Sunday, August 9th. For those who've been keeping track of me the last few months, I've been interviewing a lot of people from different ends of the spectrum when it comes to politics, when it comes to personal beliefs, when it comes to just whatever they do on a daily basis. I believe we're in a very divisive time, so it's good to have very healthy conversations with people you don't even agree with. It's good to just have these open conversations. So I've been interviewing liberals, conservatives, everyone in between, all ends of. So today we have Pete Gomez. You may know him on Instagram as the third Pete Gomez. Welcome, sir.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Of
Thank you.
course. I love it. So you are a very proud conservative. You're a Trump supporter. So let's dive into that. I would love to know, before we get started in talking about politics, let's talk about how you were raised, where you're from, your
Yeah.
background,
Okay.
how you came to be.
Absolutely. So I was born and raised in Texas, the Lone Star State, the reddest of the red across all of the country. Um, of course, it's stereotyped. Everything is bigger, and better in Texas, that they say that. But, just at the end of the day, I was raised, just brought up the way that I was raised ultimately had to do with where I'm at now. So my family was from the very beginning, just not very strict, but they had a very good, like a spiritual foundation. More so my dad, he would always try and keep us in the Catholic Church. I wasn't really raised Christian. I was raised Catholic. But over time and stuff, I started resonating more with Christianity and just feeling my spirit tug more towards that.
Hey, you got my Jesus
And
shirt on right now, man.
hey, man, that's awesome. I love it. I definitely love that. Um, and so when I was younger, of course, I didn't understand too much, but, my aunt on my dad's side, she was the only Christian in the family, and everyone else was, pro-Catholic and Catholicism, and they were completely by the book with that. And so occasionally we would go to my aunt's house, stay the night with my cousins and stuff. And on Sundays, whenever we were with them, she would take us to a Catholic church. And of course, a lot of, my family and my younger cousins and my little brother, we were a little bit bored, but, over time, the message was resonating with me. And so she planted that seed. And from there, I ended up just completely embracing Christianity. And I have been diving into that since I would say maybe 2011
Okay.
is when I really, really got into Christianity. But overall, just, I was raised with, being a responsible child. If you want a toy or if you want a reward, you have to clean your room. You have to earn it. You can't just be given these things,
Right.
Same thing with school. I had to work hard to get an allowance on my report card for every B, I'd get this much money, or for every A, I'd get this many dollars, so
Right.
they kind of instilled these younger programs, in me, and how to really, it really ultimately prepared me for being an adult, because most kids are, spoiled rotten. I did have my moments, of course, but it's just, if that's the way that you raise a child, you don't really teach them the value of like earning things, and it's always just gimme, gimme, gimme.
Yeah.
And so all these little, things were just instilling in me. And overall, it just molded me all the way across the board, regardless of my sexual orientation and all that stuff. My
Yeah.
faith definitely comes first to who I am as a person. All these other labels by society are completely irrelevant to me.
Gotcha.
But I wasn't even political, to be honest. Like, I wasn't into politics at all whatsoever. I was just like the rest of the masses. My vote doesn't matter, so why should I go vote? And it wasn't until, as I got older, I went to my aunt's house, because over time she ended up being sick with cancer. And so it was to the point where she was bedbound, but she still had her Bible. She was always in the worshiping, and just such a very lighthearted spirit on her, even when she was facing some dark times, So one time I went over to her house, and I was just having a bad day. And I went to go talk to her, and she was watching a Trump rally. And I had no idea, about Trump. I didn't really care about him. All I knew is he was like the "you're fired" guy, and
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
completely irrelevant and stuff. And if I was being a little honest, I was probably more towards Hillary, just because I was comfortable with Hillary and I had seen her for so many years. So of course it made sense just for me to stick with what I was used to seeing.
Right. Right. Right.
But, my aunt she had a whole rally on TV, a big old TV screen. And she was like, I really don't understand why they are attacking this man. He hasn't done anything wrong to anybody. It wasn't up until he decided to run for president that they started calling him all these ugly, nasty names. And it just was like it startled me at first, but it was like a little light bulb went off in my head. And so I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. But I turned and watched the rally, and I was open to the rally, and I heard everything he said. And oh my gosh, like it was so moving, like just the energy in the entire rally, like just what they were talking about, what he was discussing, the pro patriotism, America first, all these different things resonated with me. And so from that point on, I was a little bit more curious about Trump.
Okay.
So I started doing research and, reading books on him and about his past and how he was brought up and stuff. And it ultimately led me to being convicted to actually supporting the president and voting for him back, when with his first run. And I mean, the rest is really history from
Yeah.
there.
Got you. Got you. Now let's talk about comfort, because you mentioned comfort
Yeah.
earlier on.
Yeah.
So, as a Latino, as
Mhm.
a gay man,
Yeah.
it is comfortable being liberal now, especially nowadays, because when you're a liberal, you can say whatever you want,
Yeah.
and you can be open, and
Yeah.
you can do whatever you want, and I guess you can say that you are, um, uh, you won't get in trouble for it, right? So you
Yeah.
can, it's kind of, you can kind of say liberalism controls media, liberalism controls social media. So
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
So with that being said, was there a moment where you walked away, or were you always conservative? Because I mean, for you, someone like you, you can lose a lot of friends, you
Yeah.
know, especially
Yeah.
in both
And I
communities, the
have.
Latino community and the gay
Yeah.
community. So
Yeah.
so
It's
it's kind of
true.
like you're doing it for sake of doing it. Like you actually
Oh,
truly
exactly.
believe in
No. Yeah.
this, you know? So
Absolutely. 100%.
so was there a walkaway movement, a moment, or were you
Um,
always kind of
so now
leading?
I wouldn't really say that I had an actual walk away moment just because I never voted before in politics. I never considered myself Democrat or Republican. I just kind of, it was whatever. I didn't really care about politics, just like I was about sports. Who do you want to win? I don't care. So it's like same thing with that. I didn't really care about it, but it wasn't until I started looking at spirituality and biblical prophecy and seeing certain events that it listed in like the book of Revelation and Ezekiel and
Okay.
Isaiah 45, and seeing certain prophecies kind of manifest in the political world. And I was confused by that. But for me, since 2011, since I first hopped on Christianity, it wasn't the 10 commandments or the Old Testament or the New Testament. It was the prophecies that made me so like, wow, this is crazy. This is
Okay.
amazing. All this supernatural stuff. And, I think where Christians get it wrong is Christians are like in churches and stuff. And I honestly, it's my opinion, but I go to church all the time, so I see it with my own eyes. There's always people talking about, well, I would say specifically the pastors, they're so focused on their message of forgiveness or love or positivity or what would Jesus do. And it's like, those are all repetitive messages that we've heard time and time again. We need to kind of move up with the times and say, guys, this may be uncomfortable, but we're in a heated political environment. The issues are abortion and this and this. We should turn to scripture and see what it says, and then we can go out into society and kind of combat it that way. But no pastors have really leaned on that. If anything, they've pushed for less politics, and let's not talk about politics as much. But politics ties hand in hand with spirituality, because at the end of the day, it's just how you want to live your life, how your values line up with the way that you go about in the world. Do you want to have a godless society or God in society? Do you want to have a society where people can just kill children left and right, or do you want them to be valued and maybe switch over to like an adoption, or maybe like let's try and create something that's more friendly on reproductive, something that'll halt it or something, that way people can be a little bit more responsible. You would think in 2020 people would be so responsible with their bodies and stuff, but it's the exact opposite. People want to have emotional feel good moments, and they want to do irresponsible things, and then they want to end up getting pregnant and then blame it on, I'm not ready or I'm not responsible yet. At the end of the day, conservative values say you shouldn't even be having sex until marriage. So there's certain little things here and there, but me, I would probably say I'm more in the middle. I'm
Okay.
more of a free thinker, because
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything 100% on Republicans, just like but between the two, Republicans and the values that they have
Yeah.
instilled definitely line up with my way of life more. So when it comes down to it on the ballot, you can say I'm Republican.
Gotcha.
But at the end
Okay.
of the day, I'm right in the middle, free thinker. Question
Gotcha.
everything that comes at me from both sides,
Yeah. Why
always.
not? Why should we just accept everything, right?
Oh my gosh, it happens though. It's a real disease. People love to listen to the TV and what it tells them to do, and they do it.
Right.
And for me, like I haven't watched TV in the longest time. Like I have a TV behind me, but that's really only for like YouTube videos or like taking a break and watching like a movie or something. It's
Right.
never to like tune into the news and see what they're saying.
Right.
I don't
Got
really
you.
care about that. Yeah.
Got you. Now, I would love to know what are the topics and issues that are most important to you? Because I mean, I see that you, on your Instagram stories, you're marching and
Oh yeah.
you're definitely
Oh
against
yeah.
human trafficking, as we all are. But
Oh,
you're
100%.
definitely
Yeah.
into it with when it comes to like the end human
Yeah.
trafficking movement. So talk about what issues are most resonant with you.
So for me, I honestly, I knew that the sex trafficking issue was big, and it's always been big, but I never saw it in the light that I have up until a few weeks ago, when, of course I saw the little conspiracies, or like the QAnon discussions, or the boards over here talking about how there's people, pedophiles running Hollywood, and they're actors and actresses, people who we love and adore, who we'd never think, all these little things just, hit me at one time, but I didn't dismiss it. I questioned it. And what I did is I ended up looking and seeing certain things, and seeing researches and certain tweets that Trump would tweet and misspell. Like, he would misspell words. Like, there was one word where he was referencing the child trafficking, but he misspelled children. And of course, the media persecuted him for that, saying, "Oh, well, he doesn't even know how to spell children, this and that." But what they failed to realize is that Trump was sending a subliminal message directly to people who are aware of what's really going on. So I looked this up for myself. I took the word children, exactly the way he spelled it, and I typed it into a different search engine. And when I typed it into a different search engine, all this crazy stuff started coming up, which was supposed to be conspiracy theories from these threads that I was reading. Things about like blood and like vitality and all these certain crazy things that you would never expect to happen in reality. It was being passed through us directly from the president. So either he's making all this stuff up, or this is all real things. So at the end of the day, I know I can't do too much about all those things. Those things are out of my hands. But what I could do is start locally, start with the grassroots, go to my home city and hometown, and speak out there and let people know about the things that I've learned. And I'm not there to say, hey, this is true. I'm there to say, this is information. Do what you will with it, and then come up with your conclusion. But at the end of the day, you'll see all the stuff that I presented is it's pretty hard to reject it. There's a lot of compelling evidence out there. Of course, it's going to be
I've seen your
alleged.
post. That's like,
Yeah,
takes
you've
you down the
seen my
rabbit hole for
post.
sure. Takes you down the
Yeah.
rabbit hole for sure, man. Oof. So it's deep in there. It's deep in there. But it's funny to me is because whether or not the conspiracy theories are real or whatever, like
Yeah.
take away QAnon, take away all this, take
Yeah.
away Pizzagate,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Take those away. It's still happening. You know,
Exactly. It is
the
still happening.
yeah
Yes.
the industry of
Yeah.
trafficking is still happening, whether or
The
not
numbers
you
are still
agree.
real. The
Yeah.
2,000 plus children daily missing is still real. And if you kind of been paying attention to the whole Lebanon situation, they found tunnels underneath the ground, which is supposed to be sea level, but also 80,000 children are now homeless, and they don't know where they're going to go. So it's a possibility that these children could possibly go missing or trafficked. I would never want to speak that on these children. I never want to speak negativity, but from a real perspective, and coming from a place where I don't trust my government at all, it's kind of hard for me to say, yeah, they'll be okay. But there's just so much information. But like you said, like take everything out of the equation, all these conspiracies and stuff, the facts and the numbers are still there.
Right.
And so I feel like we're completely being distracted talking about the COVID and the masks and all these different things, but we're completely neglecting all this. Well, they think we're neglecting all this, but in all reality, you forcing us into our homes and keeping us away from the bars and stuff allows us to actually use our brain more. And now we're all kind of coming to an agreement on the same page of what's really happening with these children in the world. And politicians and leaders globally, they
Right.
need to act better. They need to do better and crack down on this. This isn't, we're so occupied about drugs and stuff. That's an issue, but this took over the drug industry. Now this is number one. Child
Right.
trafficking has beaten the drugs, which is crazy, which is so crazy. So we definitely need to bring more awareness to that issue. And that's one thing that I've just, day by day, I'm getting more and more involved and more passionate about these things, because
And
there's children everywhere in my family, and I would
right.
never want to stick their faces to any of these kids that I see on pictures, or the things that I'm posting, all this evil stuff. It's like, man, we got
Yeah.
to do something.
Right. Yeah. And I saw one of your posts on Instagram was you shared the post about Trump giving $35 million to
Yeah, to human trafficking
trafficking
survivors.
survivors.
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, that makes you happy as a Trump supporter. I know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, it does, because he's actually doing things about it. And if, like, I love watching his speeches, not because I'm obsessed with the man, but because I'd rather hear what he has to say directly from his mouth right then and there versus cut out clips on this news or that news, or because every news station has their own biasness. Whether they're on this side of the aisle or that, they're still competing against each
Right.
other with their own ratings. NBC, CNN, Fox, they're all competing against each other. So their quality control is going to be up and down, trying to make the headlines of what's going to make us angry or happy according to our politics. But when you look at what he's saying and stuff, he's addressing the sex trafficking issue. He's talking about the human trafficking issue and how we're going to get all these things taken care of. He's definitely addressing that, and it's a little bit frustrating when I have so many people who see what I'm posting and they still, well, where's your proof? Where's your evidence? Hello, I just saw the man speaking directly. Like, listen to him. Don't take my word for it. Like, go listen to the horse talk directly.
And
And a
I
lot of
actually know
people, they just,
survivors who are like,
yeah.
yeah, it's for real. Like,
Well, I haven't known. Well, I haven't met any. They're around everywhere. Not everyone wants to speak about these things. It's the same thing with someone who's been sexually assaulted as maybe a younger person or an adult. Those things scar you, and you definitely don't want to relive those moments or have that trauma again or speak about it again. So I'm sure that there's people around me who are impacted by stuff like that, and it's good to be aware and just spread awareness and ultimately lose judgment. Just accept everyone for where they are and meet them where they're at, and just help everyone come along. Because like, this mission, it's not like a left issue or a right issue. It's not a blue versus red. It's America as a whole united. When people come and sex traffic, they don't say, oh, that child's a Democrat parent, let's take that kid, or that's
right,
a
right,
Republican child, let's leave him. No, they take kids all the way across the board.
right.
So we need to just put our differences aside, at least for right now, come together for this big issue, crack down on it, figure out what exactly is going on. That way we can all just kind of smooth things out, and then we can go back to our little differences and the little things that we want to stand firm on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm actually really glad you said yes to this interview because I'll be honest with you. I reach out, like I said, I reach out to everybody at different
Yeah.
ends of the spectrum. But it's like 90% of the people who said yes to an interview are conservatives. And I feel like the reason
Okay.
why, and a lot of them are people of color, actually. And I feel like the reason why is because you you folks feel maybe there's been a misrepresentation of conservatives in the media. So you're like,
Yes,
hey, let
absolutely.
me show you who we really are. So you're
Yeah.
not just old rich white men. You're variety. You're
Yeah,
women.
you're not, yeah, we're not rich white people. Like, we're not better than anybody. We don't have gated communities. Like, some of us live in the hood, some of us were raised in like poverty-stricken areas, but we grow out of those and we learn
Exactly.
to appreciate growth and that opportunity to climb the ladder. We don't say, government help me, I can't get this job, or someone called me a wetback or a bad derogatory word. I can't improve my life now. I have to be stuck where I'm at and just be sad all the time because someone oppressed me.
Right.
That's nonsense. And it's like it's kind of like to what you said about like how conservatives are being misrepresented in the media. I would argue that same thing with the left, the LGBT community, the Black Lives Matter movement. That's misrepresentation too, because what they're showing us is not what you get when you see these people in person. You get anger, you get crazy unstable emotions, you get abused, you get assaulted, you get all these different crazy things. But when you watch these people on TV, they're saying, oh, well, they're diverse, or they're doing it for a good cause, or you're being insensitive if you say this, or if you say all lives matter. It's like, what? So there's a lot of struggle. And I think for me, being Hispanic, being gay, and being a conservative, it's hard because I'm not only taking flack from the liberal lefty loonies, I'm also taking flack from the super far right conservative Christians who believe that homosexuality is a sin. But what they failed to mention is that they're only saying homosexuality. They're not saying how many times that they've lusted in their mind. They're not saying how many times they've said a little lie or a fib. They're not saying anything about the times that they've stolen or mistreated someone or called someone out of their names. They're only focusing on one thing. But the sin, according to Christianity, the sin and the sinner are two different very things. You embrace the sinner because they're the person, but you can hate the sin. So homosexuality is really only same-sex relationships. Am I being homosexual right now? Am I having a same-sex relation with someone right now? No. So by society, I have to label myself gay, but that's a trap to identify myself as something I'm not, just something that is a small preference. I don't label myself mustard because I like mustard. And so when Christians on the right say there's no room for rainbows here, or they call us rainbow people, it kind of makes it harder for us to say, dude, like, you're missing the mark. Like, we should be building bridges for people who are different and meet them where they are. You don't say Jesus doesn't love you. You say, hey, Jesus will meet you where you're at, and then from there you can follow along with Jesus. Like, Jesus embraced the homosexual and the prostitute. He said, leave your wicked ways and follow me. So why aren't we doing those things? But we all fall short of the glory of God, including far right Christians. So people think it's so easy to just, oh, you got it made. It's so easy for you because you're an outspoken Trump supporter. It's like, not really. I'm battling twice
Yeah.
what I should be.
And you're
I
Latino.
should only be arguing. Exactly. Happen, but
Yeah.
hey,
We
we're
lost you for a
back.
few seconds, but it's okay. We're back. We're live. See, that's what I love about this. Completely uncut. We're gonna play it as is. So I think I lost you again. No.
I
See, that's what happens
forgot
when we
what I
go
was
live.
saying.
The
Yeah,
devil's
hey, it
trying to get us, bro.
happens.
The devil's
Hey,
trying to bring
yeah,
us down.
it always happens. But hey, what the devil uses for bad, God will always turn for good. So.
Absolutely. Now, where were we?
Oh man.
Yeah, absorbing all the hate.
Oh yeah. Uh, it wasn't easy at first, but literally, like, they're looking for an identity. People on the left are so lost, I feel. They
Okay, sorry about that, folks.
Yeah.
Like I said, I try to make it a point as to not cut anything. So all the imperfections
Yes.
you see, all the flaws you see in this interview,
Yeah.
we're gonna keep it in there, man.
It's real life. We live in a real world. We got to embrace our imperfections like that.
Exactly. So we were mentioning how you take hate from left and right, from everybody
Yeah.
in between. But you
Yeah.
keep hustling, man. You keep being you, which I love because it doesn't stray away. It doesn't take away from who you
Oh,
are.
exactly. 100%. I'm always going to be me, whether people call me out of my name or if they compliment me. I'm still going to keep doing what I feel is my calling right now, which is to be vocal on all these issues and just keep pressing into them more.
Yeah. Now, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a step out of what I'm used to doing and kind of give you a scenario, right?
Oh, yeah, sure.
So say that a white liberal says, "Hey Pete, what are you doing? You're gay, you're Latino. What are you doing being conservative?
Yeah.
You're oppressed. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You go with the people that support you, that have your back, right? What's your
Mm-hmm.
response to that? You don't fit the racial stereotype.
Yeah, for me, well, it seems like a lot of people, just because you're LGBT, they say that you have to vote Democrat because that. But what I tell people, or what I would tell a white liberal who said, "What am I doing?" Because I'm gay, I would just simply say, "My sexual orientation does not define me. What I do in the privacy of my bedroom has no place of what or purpose of what I'm doing in society. Society as a whole is all of us. But in my own privacy, that's my time. That's me time. If I'm doing anything, that's my choice. I shouldn't take what I'm doing in my private life and put it in the public and expect the public to embrace me and allow me to be accepted this way and make decisions in life based on who I'm attracted to."
Right.
Yeah, and it's completely irrelevant. I don't think that, at the end of the day, it's just me seeing it as a Christian. From a Christian perspective, we are called to build relationships with everyone. What you and I are doing right now is building a relationship. What I do with girls, build relationship. What I do with guys, I build relationships. So it's crazy that we have gotten to such a divisive part where we have to label everything and put everything in small boxes, like this box or gay box, or you're wearing pink, oh, that's gay, or you're hanging out with dudes, like, oh, it's like, we're called to do this with everyone. But now there are a few select people that you become more intimate with, and if it's reciprocated, and of course, if everyone is of legal age. I'm not going to say, because there's very sensitive trips that you're going to fall over with the whole LGBT movement and all this clover gender stuff and the whole pedophilia, sex trafficking thing. Like, they're all trying to combine it. So I definitely want to make sure to emphasize that is not part of this movement. I myself don't even consider myself a member of the LGBT community, because the community itself, I'm a part of the community, which is the normal community. I don't need to separate myself and demand equality, but at the same time try so hard to be extra and different from the rest of the world. I don't deserve any extra privileges, but also my constitutional rights give me every gay right that I need to have a happy life in America. You know, I can say whatever I want. I can still pray to God. I can go to church and attend church. I can have my freedom to protest and say, no, you're tripping, or, you know, no, I don't like this kind of stuff, or, you know, march in the streets for things that I believe in. Homosexuals have 17% higher chances of being assaulted or hurt or murdered because of their sexual orientation. You know, so why wouldn't you want to protect yourself? You know, self-defense, get a gun. I'm not saying that you would ever want to use it, but in times where you feel threatened, that's what these things are for. You know, like, don't think that it's just a bad guy coming up to you with a gun. You could be a good guy with a gun and defend you plus 10 other people. You never know the situation.
Yeah.
You know, that I don't believe in big government. I'm completely against big government. I was raised, it's like, well, if you want this bike, you better figure out a way to go get it. You know, if you want this, you better get a job and try and save up money. You know, like, it's up to us to get things that we want in life on our own. We shouldn't reach out to the government, you know, people who shouldn't even really be noticeable. They should be that small in the country. The government should be so small, and they are so big, and everything's completely opposite. You know, we go to them when we need something done for us, but it seems like they're the ones who are saying, hey, let's do all this to make y'all's lives better. And we don't need that. We don't want someone or people who are leaders who are so out of touch and live in Washington and have all these rich, you know, rich necessities and lifestyles. We don't need them telling us how to live our lives,
Yeah.
you know. But when with comfort and what people are used to seeing all their lives, like they're used to seeing people on TV like Hillary Clinton. So whenever she comes in and says, I'm with you, or I support the LGBT, everyone's like, oh yes, girl, yeah, we gotta vote Hillary Clinton. It's like, no, no. How can you want to support a president who says they support LGBT, yet they're advocating for open borders, which other sides of the world hate homosexuality so bad to the point of public execution, stoning, imprisonment? Why would you want people to come over here and do that to the citizens of America? You know? And also this, if America is so racist and misogynistic and xenophobic and homophobic and it's full of rich white people, how come America is people move here the most? Millions of
Good
people
point.
come to America. They don't go to other countries, and no one who's complaining about America that bad is leaving America. They're saying it's awful and bad, but they're not leaving. Practice what you preach, leave, and then show us what country is good so we can go there
It's funny.
and take everyone with you.
When Trump won, people were like, I'm gonna move, and they're still here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
So
crazy. Yeah, and honestly, it's just all talk. That's why I don't listen to celebrities. I don't listen to politicians like that. I don't listen to people who live in those bubbles. They live in the spotlight with cameras and money and fame, and we don't. We work. We wake up early. We go and make a check and a living, and we try and build our brand and make something of ourselves. It's complete opposite. Why are we going to let them tell us what to do? They have all the money in the world, yet they're still asking, make a $5 donation here, make a 10. You're a billionaire. You can fix all these issues with like half a check. Just sign a check and you're good with this cause. Why do we need to give more money that we don't have to you guys? It's just, pop culture is so crazy, and the way that they influence the masses, it's sad. But you know, I'm hopeful that we're waking up more and more every day, and just turn off your TVs, turn off the music, turn off all the nonsense, and just engage and be present and see what's going on in the world, in your world that you can control, you know.
fair assessment, man. Yeah, I'm actually learning stuff from you. I don't need the
Hey,
news. You.
there you
Now,
go.
Pete, I know you got a march to go to, so I got one more question
Yeah,
for you before we
sure,
wrap things up.
absolutely.
If a Latino or anyone, any minority comes up to you and says, Pete, you vote for Trump, show me some receipts. How has he benefited minorities? What receipts would you show?
Okay, so what receipts would I show for that? I would just ultimately look at the track record, look at what Trump has done for the Latino community, as far as it kind of goes hand in hand with the employment is the biggest thing at the end of the day. We need jobs to be able to get ahead in life. We didn't have that before. The Latino community, the lowest unemployment rate; Asian American, lowest unemployment rate; African Americans, lowest unemployment rate before COVID. You know, before COVID. So we were all getting these jobs, and people were saying, oh, well, these jobs aren't benefiting us. Yes, they are. You are crying because you're working at McDonald's, asking for $15 an hour, but you have enough customer experience and cash handling experience to update your resume and go to the bigger next thing. We have such a mindset that we're so stuck in our little places and we can't move or grow. That's a defaulted mindset, you know. But That's all false, you know. And at the end of the day, most Latinos, most Hispanics that I know line up with conservative values. Whether you're Catholic or Christian, you believe in God, right? And of course, you know God because people pray to the Virgin Mary, they pray to God, they pray to the saints, they pray to Jesus. That is freedom of religion. That's tied in with the First Amendment. The left does not support that stuff. The right does. So therefore, you need to agree with the right and Republicans, regardless of if the leader is rich and white or whatever. We got to look past that and think, what can I do for myself, or what can I do for the world, not what the world can do for me. Line up with that. Same thing with protection. We all have a lock on our door. We all have locks on our windows. We all want to protect our family. Why would we be so easy to say all guns are bad? Well, okay, if they take away all the guns, what if they have knives? What if they have rocks? What if they have a car? What if they have a machete? Then what are you going to do? You know, so getting rid of guns and stuff like that, like there's so much confusion and little nitpick things that are just scattered everywhere for people to just focus in on and kind of miss the point. But ultimately, for Latinos, I think we are conservative at heart. We're conservative at heart. We like to provide for our families. We don't like anyone to help us out. We don't need, no, don't go ask them for help. We'll take care of it. We got you. We're family. We do this together. Those are all conservative values, you know. But whenever you attach conservative to the rich white man or Trump, that turns people completely away, and they don't even want to take their time to research more into that. They just want to listen to what Joe Biden says, listen to what the political leaders on the left say, that these people are bad and they want to take care of us. If they're bad and they want to take care of us, why would I not want to go over here? It's literally the trick of the mind. It's a trick of the mind. It's laziness, and people definitely need to just turn off their TVs and read a book and do a little bit more research with politics. You know, I wasn't the smartest kid. I was not familiar with politics whatsoever. But once I took the time to learn and do all this stuff, I realized, dude, separate the playing field. Like, move Trump, move Hillary, move all these names that you see on TV. Let's look at the values. Liberals say this with abortion. Conservatives say this with abortion. Which one do I line up with better? Okay, this one. You know, same thing with the death penalty. I don't really agree with the death penalty, even though it's a conservative value. I'm going to be more this way. But between all the values, you have to see which one lines up most for you. And I would say to anyone who's watching right now, a lot of people who, you know, say that my vote doesn't count or I'm not going to go vote. Our votes didn't count in the past. The left wing and the right wing literally were connected to the same head. But now that we have an outsider who's done so much damage, he's literally exposing the corruption in the government that we've been under for so long. And it's foreign to us when we see it, but this election is very important. We have to vote if we want to keep our free society. In a free society, you can be liberal all you want to, and that's fine. I can be conservative all I want to, and that's fine. But if we lose this, you can't be liberal, I can't be conservative. We have to be this different religion or this different ideology that the government's telling us to. And if we don't comply with that, we'll go to jail, we'll get penalized, who knows, something worse. But that's why I feel like this election is way more important than 2016, because we have so much more on the line now. And honestly, if people like their payroll taxes and all of those things getting cut, just like yesterday, imagine what's going to happen when he goes through another 4 years. Imagine what good is going to happen to this country and in turn with the world. A lot of good's going to happen out of it.
Pete, it's been such an honor hearing from you, man. We definitely got to do a follow-up at some point. Maybe after the election. Who knows?
Yeah, for sure, man. I'll be here.
Where can folks check you out?
Yeah, so I am on Facebook, Parler, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. I am the third Pete Gomez. If you can't find me that way, you can just type in Pete Gomez, I, because there's no suffix for the third. And you should be able to find all my stuff through there.